Good morning and welcome back to the Livingston Parish News Morning Show. My name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. Appreciate you guys joining us this morning. If you're watching us live, thanks for that. If you are watching or listening to us later, we appreciate that as well. So thanks for that. Getting into our traffic this morning, you're looking at minor delays at 4-H Club Road, River Road, and 190 as folks seem to be taking the whole social distancing, trying to work from home thing a little more seriously. So minor delays. If you're heading into Baton Rouge, nothing crazy, nothing serious if you are an essential worker or if you are in one of those workplaces that has implemented social distancing and that kind of thing. And we'll talk about that in a minute. It's currently 71 degrees, 88 degrees again, your high. So you're looking at another hot one just like yesterday. It's a little overcast this morning. Going to be parting around lunch, looking at a sunny afternoon. Yesterday, it was announced that there are 2,305 cases of the coronavirus in Louisiana. That includes 83 deaths. And yesterday, the United States surpassed 1,000 COVID-19 related deaths, leading the world. They are describing the United States as the epicenter of this pandemic, or this disaster, if you will. 676 have been hospitalized, with 239 on ventilators. Now, it's important to bring that number up. Some people may have heard President Trump talking yesterday about ventilators, kind of doesn't understand, or maybe he does understand, just trying to figure out how to, what the supply chain is going to look like, how to fill that demand. Because normally a hospital, might have a larger hospital might have 5 to 10 ventilators. A lot of smaller hospitals might have 2 or 3. Now all of a sudden you've got 239 of 676 who are on ventilators in hospitals, mostly due to the pneumonia portion of COVID-19. So, numbers that you don't normally see, and that's just in Louisiana. So numbers that you don't normally see, I combine normally and numbers. So numbers that you don't normally see are suddenly coming out of the woodwork. That's the other problem as well. You're looking at critical healthcare infrastructure. ICU rooms, which are intensive care rooms, are usually a little different than your regular hospital rooms. Of course, they have more equipment. They're managed a little differently, that sort of thing. Well, we don't have there's not a whole lot of them in hospitals. If you've ever been to an ICU wing, they may have multiple, but because of the intensive care that these folks need, you need more nurses, more equipment. There's usually only about 10 rooms to an ICU unit, and they might have multiple units, of course. They might have a bigger intensive care unit if they are a bigger hospital, but that's the problem. Even then, you're talking about maybe 30, 40 intensive care rooms in a very large hospital like maybe Ochsner or UMC in New Orleans. But we've got 676 people in the hospital. So when Governor Edwards is talking about these critical infrastructure failing in terms of healthcare, that's what he means, is that we're running out of room, intensive care room to put these folks. That's what happened in Italy. That's why we have to flatten the curve so we don't have as many people in the ICU all at one time. So what does that mean? That means mitigation, right? That means washing your hands for 20 seconds with soap and water. That means staying at home when you're sick. That means practicing social distancing when you're out in the world, staying 6 feet away from people at the home and office, disinfecting common surfaces at the home and office, covering your mouth or your nose when you sneeze or cough, using either your elbow or tissue. And also, we already mentioned the 10 people or less. So, some businesses are like, can we go to work or not? Even the essential businesses have to practice social distancing. What they're asking folks to do is limit your exposure to the public, because, of course, this can not only grow exponentially from a single person, but it is also exponentially likely that it comes back to you. Now, what does that mean? Exponential growth means that one person gets it, gives it to 3 people. Those 3 people give it to 3 people each. That's 9. Those 9 people give it to 3 people each. That's 27. Now, that doesn't even include the people that have already been infected. And you see how this works. A lot of this started, it's a theory, but it's a pretty good one. A lot of this started at Mardi Gras, just 5 weeks ago. So, but that can happen the same way. So let's say you go to work and you're working with 3 other people, If you don't practice social distancing, let's say one of them just happens to have a cough and coughs on you, that you don't know where that person has been. And I know a lot of times people use that to talk about, food or petting a stray dog or something like that. But this is different because that person could have been around 3 people in their home. Husband could be a contractor or wife could be, a lawyer who has taken personal meetings with people. And then you just never know. You can follow it all the way. You just never know where these folks have been. So that's why they're asking people to practice social distancing, staying away at least 6 feet away from people. If you're interested in what 6 feet looks like, you can go to your local Walgreens. They have marked off 6 feet in areas where there are normally lines, so you can kind of get a visual idea of what that looks like. But practicing these mitigation efforts and this social distancing is extremely important in curbing the spread of this disease. It continues to spread. Again, we are way outpacing Italy, which is a 60 million person country. Now, one thing that's been brought up is that Italy was already having some health issues this year in terms of the flu, a worse flu season than normal, mostly because it's been a lot warmer in most places. However, they have the health infrastructure designed for 60 million people, where we in Louisiana have the health infrastructure designed for 4.6 million people. That being said, yesterday the governor adjusted his timelines. Now you're looking at more like April 2nd when we run out of ventilators in the New Orleans area. But you're still looking at April 6th to 7th for critical infrastructure in terms of healthcare failing. And I know that's hard for people to wrap their minds around, to imagine. It just seems so far away. It's only March 27th. That's almost 10 days. But it'll be here before you know it. And so he's asking people, and you don't know when it's going to come here. Let's go ahead and talk about that. Instead of the timeline, Mr. David Gray volunteered to go to the press conference yesterday to ask a question that I know is on a lot of local folks' minds. What does the Baton Rouge critical infrastructure look like? And the governor kind of gave an answer that, not necessarily his fault. He just said, we're not real sure at the moment. They're really focused on trying to curb this and keep what's happening in New Orleans from not happening in the Baton Rouge area. Right now, Ascension Parish is up over 100 cases. Livingston Parish doubled to 11. And Baton Rouge is hovering around 100. So you're looking at these cases going up just like they did in New Orleans as more and more folks get tested. The testing labs have done about 17,000 to 18,000 tests. So these numbers continue to grow. We reached out to Parish President Leighton Ricks and Director of Homeland Security Mark Harrell yesterday. Parish President Ricks agrees with the governor. It can come here if people do not distance socially, do not practice the mitigation efforts. Mark Harrell also agreed, but added a little caveat, the same thing that Governor Edwards has said. They are trying to get personal protective equipment for local law enforcement through the Department of Homeland Security. All of the supply lines in that regard are tapped. So it's very, very, very difficult to get personal protective equipment because this is nationwide. So everybody's pulling from many of the same supply chains. So it's very hard to get this stuff. So the problem is when you have these sort of, I guess you can call them large urban centers or ground zeros, places like San Francisco, New York City, New Orleans, Chicago, Seattle, where these things spread rapidly and you're trying to catch back up. A lot of equipment is expended to run tests, to run hospitals, that sort of thing. What happens when it gets to us? So practicing these mitigation efforts, staying home, especially if you're sick, use telehealth to get in touch with your doctor. 10 people or less in your surrounding ate, staying 6 feet away from people, covering your mouth with your elbow or a tissue when you cough or sneeze, and washing your hands for at least 20 seconds with soap and water. These are important. Now, it doesn't necessarily say that you can't go to work, but if you are going to work and there are 50 people at your office and it's a tiny office with little cubicles and there's no way to stay 6 feet away from people, you need to call somebody. Or you need to make a decision about, and I know that times are difficult for people right now, very difficult. A lot of places are closed altogether. and it's tough. People trying to stay going to work, trying to stay getting paid. Try to see if your employer will let you work from home. If there is a way for you to work from home, trying to make sure that this does not come into the Baton Rouge area. Because if you want to compare critical infrastructure, okay, it's done by region. New Orleans is region 1, and that's places like St. Bernard, Plaquemines Parish, Jefferson Parish, and Orleans Parish. It's a lot of people that live there. That's a ton of people. And I'm sure I'm missing a few. Baton Rouge is another region altogether with critical infrastructure to not serve as nearly as many people. So when this truly gets out of hand is when it moves into smaller cities that do not have the health infrastructure to help people. So please, please, please remember, practice these social mitigation efforts or social distancing efforts, these mitigation efforts. Get on the phone with your doctor via Skype or telephone. Call them, tell them what's going on, see if they can't set up a video conference to talk to you. Try to stay out of public places. That's the big thing that they're bringing up with business. Keep 10 or less. Disinfect your common surfaces. Keep your employees washing hands if they absolutely have to come in. If you have more than 10 employees, break them up into shifts. Get them to come in at random times to do the functions of the office when they can, in fact, keep 6 feet of distance between themselves at all times. Keep your office clean. You just never know what's going to happen. And absolutely 100%, which is why a lot of people or a lot of different types of service industry type and entertainment type businesses were closed altogether. Limit interaction with the public. Absolutely. If you're retail, I don't know what some people are going to do in this regard, but if you are in a business where you have to interact with the public, it is absolutely better to interact with them via phone or video as opposed to in person. And especially if you're in retail, letting people come in and out of your shop is a great way to spread the virus. With that, all that being said, Spring Fest, which was scheduled for April 25th, has been canceled. According to organizer Al Bai, who is the head of the Downtown Merchants Association, he said that he expects new CDC guidelines to be coming out about large gatherings through May. We're still waiting for confirmation from this, but he had been in discussion with Denham Springs officials as well as Denham Springs law enforcement, and they decided that it was best to just go ahead and cancel the event. So again, Spring Fest on April 25th will be canceled. Unemployment numbers, we talked to you about them earlier in the week. They were up to about 71,000 per week. It's about $247 max per week is the amount that you get. That's now up to 120,000 with 3,000 people from Livingston Parish applying for unemployment benefits. So please, this is part of that. A lot of those entertainment and service industry places getting closed. We are, big on our food, big on our entertainment here in Louisiana. That hit the state in a large way. Again, we have 4.6 million people here, 120,000 applying for unemployment benefits. We'll see if that number goes up or down in the coming weeks. We talked a little bit about this. We're finally getting around to it. The municipal meetings going forward are kind of in a tough spot. Some of the smaller towns and cities are choosing not to meet. Denham Springs will not meet as long as the stay-at-home order is in effect. And if large gatherings are expanded, that it may go longer before they meet again. That includes Walker as well for the time being. The parish and the school board are looking for digital options in order to get their April meetings in. They're going to try to live stream them in some capacity, maybe outside of Action News 17 or Channel 17. And part of that is in an effort to be able to take live comments and commentary from the public, trying to keep that open meeting law intact and giving people a chance to make public comment and public input on the items on the agenda. That's both the school board and and the parish council. The school board is set to meet next Thursday. That'd be April 2nd. Pardon me. And the parish council will meet the following Thursday at April 9th. So we'll see what they come up with. They both went ahead and decided that they couldn't put together a digital plan for the second meeting of their boards in March, so they're going to try to get them both in April. So keep an eye on that. Again, local municipal meetings at this time are canceled and will remain canceled. We also discussed a couple of things that these cities are going through and these boards are going through. One of the things that Denham was currently going through was the rezone of Delta Concrete, which was Angel Concrete technically. That, of course, will be pushed back indefinitely until the city can meet again. The Planning and Zoning Commission in March, after meeting again, went ahead and voted a recommendation to deny that rezone. It was going to be used for low income housing. A lot of that, we're not going to get into the needy details right now because who knows when they'll meet again. But it was about moving part of the Affordable Housing Authority somewhere out of a flood zone. So that's what that was all about. Walker was going through trying to acquire some flood recovery grants. That's unfortunate. They were in the midst of that, trying to get in touch with their board to see if they had at least approved those, to see if they were at least in the pipeline for that. The parish was going through a lot of different things. The ordinance committee especially, and we're trying to catch up with Mr. Tracy Grellinghouse, or Tracy Ard, if you will, to see exactly what those guys will be trying to jump on next time they meet. We're also talking to the school board. A lot of what they're going to be talking about is how do we deal with missing so much school time this year, even though a lot of requirements have been waived, seeing what they can do to get kids ready to go into the next school year. A lot of people were worried at first about the supply chains. Having visited the grocery store myself yesterday, I can tell you that I think a lot of those fears have been allayed. Shelves are mostly stocked. People still pulling those toilet papers off the shelf. Still plenty of bread and things like that if you're looking for that kind of thing. It's at Carter's, Vincent Road, and Pete's Highway in Denham Springs. Most Carters appear to be pretty well stocked. Of course, Walmart and Rouse's are also available to you. But the Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries is asking that during this time, you try to support local seafood. There it is. Local seafood vendors and providers. These supply chains are still open. The fish, the shrimp, the crawfish, all of these things are still good. They're still good to eat. So please try to support, especially with restaurants being closed, which of course are the most major purchasers of seafood in Louisiana, trying to help these seafood and fishermen and that kind of thing make it through this, just as much as trying to help these restaurants who are staying open to provide curbside service. And we're going to talk about that in just a second. Drew Brees and his wife Brittany are donating $5 million to various food charities as well as through their restaurants to try to provide 1,000 meals a day, up to 10,000 meals a day for kids and needy families across Louisiana. So please, if you didn't like Drew Brees, you're probably going to like him now, as they will be working through various franchises that he's involved with to make those food deliveries. Those details are still forthcoming. Talking about restaurants and businesses, we're interested to hear if you're still open and if you're practicing social distancing. Are you a restaurant that's providing curbside assistance? Are you still mowing lawns? Are you still providing, personal information to individual clients via teleconference? Or are you still guiding them through the process of going through this? Are you still informing them about the latest marketing trends? Anything that you might be doing with appropriate social distancing and mitigation, we'd love to hear about it. Email me at mchugh@lpn1898.com or message us on Facebook. We're very interested to see how our local businesses are dealing with the spread of coronavirus and trying to curb that spread by staying home, working from home, that sort of thing. So again, that's mchugh@lpn1898.com. One last time with your traffic, it is minor out there today. A lot of traffic, especially with schools closed, has slowed down. Not much going on. Should be an easy commute for you if you are an essential worker or you're working in an office with 10 or less people practicing appropriate social mitigation in Baton Rouge. It's currently 71 degrees. 88 degrees is your high today. Going to be a hot one just like yesterday. You're looking at morning, sort of overcast, and it'll give way to sun starting midday into the afternoon. 70 degrees, your low. Tomorrow afternoon, please remember, Practice social distancing 6 feet away from folks in public areas. If you're going to have gatherings at home, try to make it 10 people or less. Try to limit the number of outside folks outside of your family unit that you interact with. Cover your mouth when you sneeze or cough with your elbow or tissue. Disinfect common surfaces at your home or office. Stay home when sick. Stay home altogether. Use telehealth to stay in touch with your doctor. Wash your hands for 20 seconds or more. And please remember, if you are going to work, practice those social distancing and mitigation efforts. If your office is telling you that you need to come work, ask them if you can work from home. Try to get some kind of leeway from them in that regard. One last time, my name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. Appreciate you guys joining us for the Livingston Parish News Morning Show. Of course, we are live on Facebook. We also record these audio and video. We upload them to www.livingstonparishnews.com/podcast. You can check them out there. We do this every weekday. We try to do them at 7:30 a.m. I do apologize for being a little late this morning. But as you can see, I am doing a stay-at-home setup here at my home. No, I'm not telling you the address. We are on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. We are once a week in print on Thursdays. We are online, www.livingstonparishnews.com/coronavirus. Those headlines are free. All of the coronavirus information we are providing is free. We also have room for advertisers. If anybody is still in business and would like to sponsor the coronavirus page or any part of it, we can definitely get that working for you. We are going to take a break for the weekend. We will be back in the booth Monday morning. Please remember that Governor John Bel Edwards has another press conference this afternoon at 2:30 that will follow an update from the numbers that are released. Yesterday, he was pretty irate, as a lot of folks still aren't taking the social distancing seriously. And of course, that just helps spread this virus. One last time, McHugh David checking out for this week. We will see you Monday morning right here in the booth at my house.